The second week of Steelers training camp is in the books, and it was a busy one. The pads came back on, the intensity ramped up, and the team hit the road for their annual Friday Night Lights workout in front of a huge crowd. We'll be discussing all that and more tonight in Steelers training camp All Access, sponsored by FedEx.
Welcome to Steelers Training Camp All Access, sponsored by FedEx.
Hello and welcome to Steelers Training Camp All Access, sponsored by FedEx. I'm Rich Walsh with the quarterback of our program, Charlie Batch. Thanks for joining us again, Charlie. One thing I wanted to ask you this week, your impressions of this week compared to the first week. What'd you think?
Oh, the intensity definitely was risen a little bit because what happens when you go from football in shorts and now putting the pads on is now it allows everybody else to kind of get back to playing some real football. It was really exciting to see. So we'll see what happens from here.
Well, this week began with a day off on Monday, an extra day of rest for Russell Wilson, who needs it right now. The pads went on Tuesday, and he got a helmet that day, but was a little more involved in practices, but still limited in some ways. Wilson began to see more reps on Tuesday. Those reps pretty much stayed the same all week. Wilson still split time at quarterback with Justin Fields and did not throw many passes during the 11-on-11 portions of practice, but he said he was happy to be back out there.
It's just good to be back out here again with the guys, putting the helmet on, really getting the work today, getting all the quarterback drills, the fundamental work, some of the handoffs, and just being in there with the fellas is always the best part. And so it was a good day today for sure. I'm watching every rep and watching everything, and if I'm not in there, but then also getting the reps today was really good, for me, just to be able to do 7-on-7 and be in the mix. That was the plan the whole time, and just to be able to get as many reps in 7-on-7 as I could, and that was really good stuff today.
All right, so Charlie, Russell was a little limited this week with that calf injury. Are you concerned at all? Why are they doing this with him right now? Is it because he's a vet and he kind of knows his offense?
Yeah, he's a vet, but I think they're being cautious with him, which is fine. But one thing, he's missing that 11-on-11 time, and that's something that really, the closer you inch to the season, how is that going to be evaluated? Because right now, Justin Fields, he is closing the gap. But, hey, Mike Tomlin said it's an open competition at this point, and right now both players are preparing for that. But yet, hey, Russell's still trying to be involved as much as possible.
All right, Tuesday was also the first day of full contact practices, and things got a little spicy this week. Bob Pompeani and I switched roles, and he was there for the first day of pads. So, Bob, what'd you think?
Hey, Rich and Charlie. Sorry I can't join you up there on the hill, but I was here this week for the first padded practice of training camp, and normally that brings out a lot of intensity, as you know. The NFL has cut back on the numbers of these padded practices they have, both here in training camp and in the regular season. But I can assure you this, when they put them on, the juices start to flow and the hitting gets more intensified.
You just got to go in with the mindset, just to go out there, smash some people, move around, fly around, compete. They're just moving guys.
They've changed it over the years so that you don't have too many of these. So because they don't, how important are they when you get them?
Very important because, this is like the only physicality, to show, for the guys who's trying to make a team and get a spot on the roster. These are like the only days to show them that, either make a guy miss or displace a guy and, just hold a guy against their will. So
I'd like to see more of them, not less?
That's not really my call, but I mean, either or, man. If it's more, then it's more. If it's less, it's less. But at the end of the day, it's all about competing.
You guys don't get an opportunity to have pads too often these days. But when you do, how important is it to have them, and would you like to see more of them?
I don't know about more of them, but obviously offensive line, the pads is where you get the meat of your work at. So especially for younger guys that are trying to develop, Coach Tomlin's talked about it in the process of this training camp. His focus is on the bigs days like these.
Does this get the juices flowing first day of this? You don't do it as much as you used to back in the day. How helpful is it?
Yeah, it's helpful a lot. Obviously we only got a certain amount of padded practices in the preseason, and we always got a certain amount in season. So every time you can get the pads thumping and getting out there, it's great.
So week number 2 is almost complete. Tomorrow, one more practice, and then this coming week, it's the first preseason game. It'll be at Acrisure Stadium on Friday when the Houston Texans come to town, a team that really caught the NFL by surprise last year and won a playoff game in the process. They'll be here taking on the Steelers Friday, and we have it for you live on KDKA. For now, this is Bob Pompeani on the field, sending it back to you guys up on the hill.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob. Fights broke out on the second and third day of pads. Landon Roberts was involved in one of those. I mean, I'm sure you saw a bunch of fights during your career here. And what do you think of them? Is it good?
It is good. I mean, obviously it's a competition, but I think ultimately when you enter into camp and you have to wait 5 days before you put pads on, everybody's talking about what they can and cannot do. But when you have a highlighted drill like the backs on backers drill, of course everybody's paying attention, and that is the drill that's going to be featured in team meetings. So you want to put on your best performance.
Well, one guy that was out there on the field this week that nobody would want to fight or mess with was James Harrison. He watched a workout, then worked individually with guys like T.J. Watt and Nick Herbig after practice. Now, Charlie, how do you like having Debo out there around this team? What does it mean to these guys?
I love it. And when you talk about somebody who has had to earn everything that came his way, it's James Harrison, 5-time Pro Bowler, only undrafted guy to win Defensive Player of the Year. So this guy comes up here with the resume. So guys are going to listen. They're going to absorb everything that he's trying to say. And when he's worked with the young guys, those are things that you have to pay attention to because that's a guy who did it at a high level.
Well, another big event, and maybe the highlight event of Steelers training camp, was the annual Friday Night Lights up at Latrobe Memorial Stadium. Here's an inside look from Steelers Media Productions.
You are looking live at Memorial Stadium in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, and Pittsburgh Steelers training camp 2024.
Do it every day. We build in a large volume of plays. Really tip my cap to the guys for the intensity that they brought to the work tonight.
All right, great stuff from Steelers TV from last night for Friday Night Lights. Charlie, I love that event. What did you think of the tradition of Friday Night Lights?
Oh, this is awesome. And this is my 20th year being a part of it. And it takes all players back to their high school days. And this is all where it started. And I think when you have to go out there and you see the crowd that's there, man, this had to be the largest crowd that I have seen in the history of Friday Night Lights. That brings the excitement. All guys were talking about it. And, man, it was great to see the energy that was the fans brought to this actual practice.
And good weather, too, which is always important.
Yes.
Coming up, the newest member of our KDKA sports team, Cassidy Wood, focuses in on this year's wide receiver room. Stick around.
Welcome back to Steelers Training Camp All Access, sponsored by FedEx. FedEx, where now meets next.
So far, training camp has been largely injury-free for the Steelers, knock on wood, but one player did go down. For more on that, let's go down to the field and Cassidy Wood.
A shocking injury this week out of the wide receiver room. Rookie and third-round draft pick Roman Wilson has gone down with an ankle injury. Head coach Mike Tomlin says it is a sprain, and Wilson is being monitored week to week.
We got him walking around in the boot for precaution. I'll give you more information as he gets closer to health.
As for the rest of the wide receivers, George Pickens, of course, looks like he's secured that number one spot. The question remains, who will fill in at wide receiver 2? There are a few options. Van Jefferson was drafted in 2020 by the Rams, then played in Atlanta last season. He says he's aware of the competition in this room right now.
You just never know, what I'm saying? We got a lot of guys, that are capable of doing a lot of things, and I think every individual is doing a great job with that.
Also, Calvin Austin, who was drafted by the Steelers in 2022, then suffered a bad injury, tearing ligaments in his foot before that 2022 season opener. He then worked hard all last year and now feels ready to potentially take on a bigger role in this offense.
After each season, you have to improve in some area. So, I'm not going to just say that I'm just a completely different player than last year, because I think I was a more than capable player last year as well, but there were some things in my game that I definitely had to improve on, and I definitely think I did. I'm just comfortable when I get a route. I'm just thinking of 2 or 3 things I want to do, and as soon as the ball snaps, it's not moving fast in my head. It's completely slowed down.
Me and Cal came in together, like you said, injury. Now he's just thriving, you know what I mean? And that's kind of like what I like to see. Me and Cal are kind of leading the room together.
The Steelers also picked up another wide receiver this week in Tariq Black, who went undrafted to the Colts in 2021, then had small stints with the Jets and Ravens, getting released from the Ravens practice squad January of this year. That's your update on the wide receiver room. I'm Cassidy Wood. Back to you guys up on the hill.
All right, thanks, Cassidy. Here's a look at the career production of that group. As you can see, there isn't a lot of experience overall. Pickens leads the way in receptions and yards over his 2 seasons, followed by Jefferson, who has the most touchdowns. The Steelers are undoubtedly looking for a big year from Calvin Austin, who showed flashes of big playability last year. So, Charlie, the good news is Roman Wilson will be back for the regular season, but will probably miss the remainder of training camp up here. What did you think of his performances before he got hurt, and can he make an impact with this wide receiver group?
Yeah, Roman was having a nice start to camp, and ultimately he was injured. That was a tough break for him because he's going to miss a lot of opportunities there as he was competing with Calvin Austin in that slot position. But now you do wait for him to come back, but ultimately this opens up a situation for Scott Miller to now be able to take advantage of some of those opportunities here. So he's looking to have a good preseason as well.
For more of that wide receiver group, let's go back down to the field and our Steelers insider, Gerry Dulac.
So much attention has been paid to the wide receiver position almost from the time they traded Deontay Johnson, who's been their most productive receiver over the past 3 seasons. Everybody wants to know what they're going to do about getting a second receiver to go with George Pickens. They had hopes that that would be Roman Wilson eventually, and eventually it might be. The problem now is with his injury. He's going to be out at least 2 weeks, but this injury is really going to set him back. In the meantime, Van Jefferson's going to be your second receiver along with George Pickens, and they're hoping a veteran such as Kes Watkins could step in along with Calvin Austin, who they retain some hope that he can be a big play guy. We've seen it from him. We've seen it from him in the preseason, but they're still hoping this guy in year 3, who missed all of his rookie season, can make that big step. There's no question the Steelers have paid a ton of attention to the offensive line in the past 2 years. You look at this past year, 3 of their top 5 draft choices were offensive linemen. And at some point, probably by next year, you're going to see all 3 of those guys be starters. Now, Troy Fautano, if he goes at right tackle, it's only going to be because of the Steelers' move Broderick Jones to left tackle. And I don't think that move is coming anytime soon, nor are the Steelers planning it. Right now, Troy Fautano's best path to being a starter is at right guard. If they can pair Troy Fautano with Broderick Jones on the right side, think of that tandem trying to run behind those 2 number 1 picks. They have high hopes for 3 of these guys, and eventually, at one point, all 3 of these guys will be starters on the offensive line.
All right, thanks a lot, Gerry. So, Charlie, those young offensive linemen that Gerry was talking about really seem to step up these past couple weeks. What have you seen out of that group?
Yeah, those guys are they're literally following the lead of a young Broderick Jones, even though he's the veteran guy of that group. But you can see those guys are a lot more vocal. They're clean in communication at the line of scrimmage, and they are cleaning the pocket up, especially in the run game. I love where they are, and it's going to be exciting to watch them as they head into this preseason.
No doubt about that. Coming up, I go one-on-one with the player who fans love to call out on game day, Pat Freiermuth. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Steelers Training Camp All Access, sponsored by FedEx. FedEx, where now meets next.
Well, the Steelers roster has seen a lot of change over the past few years, but one constant has been the starting tight end. And earlier this week, I had a chance to go one-on-one with Pat Freiermuth, who's looking for more of a leadership role this season.
I'm trying to get out of my shell a little bit. I think the first couple of years I was a little quiet, not really kind of myself on the field, but now just kind of growing up, we're a young offense and just trying to bring the team together on the offensive side of the ball and just trying to organize and things. I've seen what Cam and TJ Mink have done on the defensive side of the ball. I'm just trying to bring that to the offense. I think when Ben left, obviously that was our main guy on offense, our leader who we looked up to, and I'm missing that for the past couple of years. So just trying to get guys like Najee, myself, the new quarterbacks, just guys bring each other up, hanging out, getting to know each other outside of football.
From the outside looking in, it feels different. It feels exciting. Is that kind of what it feels like for you? Take me inside the feeling here.
It feels great. We're being coached really hard. I love it. I think it's bringing me back to the Penn State days where coaches don't put up with anything, and it's been great to get a new kind of scheme in here and be heavily involved and understanding a game in a new way. And it's been great.
You love it more because Arthur likes to bring the tight ends involved more, right?
Yeah, Arthur's been great. Just kind of adding stuff to my game and understanding the game more. From he's been around the league a long time. He works with some great tight ends. Delaney Walker and Kyle Pitts and stuff. And Jonnu Smith, and so a lot of guys have thrived in his system. So just kind of talking to him, watching film on that, it's been great.
what's the best thing that he added or helped you with right now? Can you think of something specific that?
Yeah, there's a lot. I think the biggest thing for myself is just, obviously the nuances of certain routes and understanding the scheme of what he wants and where to go. It's very detailed, and I think that's really helped me in my evolution in the pass game, but as well as blocking. I think teaching the angles and how he approaches running off the line of scrimmage has helped me a lot in that aspect.
How much is this offense going to look different compared to what we've seen the last few years, at least for someone on the outside?
It's going to look a lot different. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of 12 and 13 personnel. There's going to be a lot of shifts and motions with a purpose, and there's going to be a lot of different schemes schematically, in the pass game and the run game. And so I think it's going to look a lot different, and I'm excited to get it going in a stadium.
All right, our thanks to Pat for giving us time this week for that interview. I know he's hoping for a big year. As a quarterback, Charlie, what's it like having such a reliable, dependable guy with sure hands out there?
The tight end is always your best friend, because you can always assure he's going to be one-on-one coverage, and that's why Heath Miller was loved, and that's why myself and Ben Roethlisberger enjoy throwing to him. But now Pat Freiermuth is filling that void, and when you look at Arthur Smith's offense, he's going to now utilize the middle of the field. So, yes, Pat Freiermuth is going to be excited, and he's going to be utilized a lot more than what he had in the past.
All right, let's switch sides of the ball and talk a little defense. And one group that has stood out to me has been the defensive back group. What did you think of this group so far through the first 2 weeks?
Yeah, all of those guys have been solid. When you had to start with the veteran presence of Mika Fitzpatrick in the back there, and when you have a young Joey Porter Jr. that's starting to filling his role and building on what he did last year. But now you start to add those young guys in there, Beanie Bishops, Ryan Watts, those young guys who were drafted and undrafted that was brought onto this team. They're looking to make plays. And when you talk about open competition, Mike Tomlin is preaching that, and these guys are buying into it.
Another group that's known for making plays out there is up front on defense, led by Cam Hayward, the defensive line. What do you think of this group right now so far?
Yeah, Cam Hayward, he's the unquestionable leader. There's no doubt about it. But when you talk about the energy and where it's brought from the defensive line coach, Carl Dunbar. This guy challenged that whole defensive front, get in better shape. I want to see you in better conditioning. And you can see him flying around down here. It is awesome to see because it is challenging and it's making that offensive line better when you continue to watch this training camp day in and day out.
All right, Charlie, thanks a lot. Coming up next on Steelers Training Camp All Access, sponsored by FedEx, we'll dive into the new kickoff rules and tell you what to expect next Friday night during the first preseason game.
Welcome back to Steelers Training Camp All Access, sponsored by FedEx. FedEx, where now meets next.
Well, as they do every year, the Steelers work on all aspects of the game up here at training camp. But this year, there's a little more focus on that new dynamic kickoff rule. It's going to completely change the way teams approach the kicking game. Well, the NFL has completely overhauled kickoffs. Take a look at this graphic. The kicker will still kick off from his own 35, but his teammates will now line up on the opponent's 40 and cannot move downfield until the ball is either touched or it hits the ground. The receiving team must line up 9 players between the 30 and 35-yard line, what's being called the setup zone, and they're allowed a maximum of 2 players inside the landing zone, which is between the goal line and the 20. If a kick hits short of the landing zone, the receiving team automatically starts at their own 40-yard line. If it lands inside the zone and goes through the end zone, the drive starts at the 20. Any kick that is down in the end zone or lands there and goes through results in a touchback to the 30-yard line. We know that's a ton of information, and you might be scratching your heads out there, but don't worry, so are the Steelers.
And, I think there's a lot of unknowns, uncertainties, Nobody really knows. Nobody's really done it. Just the other football league did it. And then, I think this year they went back to the old rules. So it's really up in the air. So I know a lot of guys got a lot of questions and stuff. So hopefully we get them answered.
All right, so Charlie, just like us, this entire Steelers team was obviously paying close attention to that Hall of Fame game and seeing how this new kickoff situation will unfold. What are your impressions of it?
Yeah, earlier that day, that's when Mike Tomlin brought the NFL refs in, and they're all trying to figure it out as well. Where do they position themselves? What is this going to look like? So by the time it got to the Hall of Fame game, I was like, wow, this is new. One thing I will say is I applaud the NFL for doing something different. For years, it was a non-play. People were trying to figure out a way to get this back involved. The NFL trying to figure it out. So let's give them time. And right now, we're all trying to figure it out together because I just don't know how it's going to unfold.
All right, thanks, Charlie. So all eyes will be on how the Steelers react to these new rules, and they'll get the chance in less than 1 week as the preseason gets underway on Friday. The first 2 games of the preseason are at home this year, with that first one coming up on August 9th against the Texans. The next week, they host the Bills on Saturday night before traveling to Detroit for an afternoon game on August 24th. And as always, all 3 games will be carried live right here on your TV home for the Steelers, KDKA. Coming up, we put a bow on our last training camp show with some final thoughts from up here at training camp on the hill overlooking St. Vincent College.
Welcome back to Steelers Training Camp All Access, sponsored by FedEx. FedEx, where now meets next.
If you're coming up here to camp, here's some info you should know. Weekday practices are still at 10:30 in the morning, but those weekend workouts are in the afternoon. Tickets are free, but fans need to download them through Ticketmaster. As in the past, there will be food trucks and activities on site, and the Steelers recommend downloading their official mobile app for the latest information on all things surrounding training camp. All right, we're almost out of time here on Steelers Training Camp All Access, sponsored by FedEx. And Charlie, before we go, I know your foundation has been busy lately. What's going on?
Yes, Best of the Batch Foundation. We are now holding our 17th annual backpack giveaway, and we call it Batch Pack, which is a play off of my name. But we actually give out over 3,500 book bags filled with school supplies, in addition to teacher supplies. So this gets the school year off to a good start for all of these kids. So if you want to be a part of it, you can visit batchfoundation.org. There are many different ways that you can be a part of it and help us put smiles on kids' faces as they start the school year.
And that's all the time we have for you tonight on Steelers Training Camp All Access, sponsored by FedEx. For Charlie and the entire KDK crew, we'd like to thank the team and their staff for all the hospitality the past 2 weeks. Thanks for watching. I'm Rich Walsh. Have a great night, great weekend, and I'll see you later.